lines. I don't know if we've had apologies from all follows. Is anybody else know the other apologies? No, okay, well, if we can notify that, we'll report those in the minutes. Okay, I'm just looking at it, but anyway, we'll carry on with the meeting and hopefully we'll get broadcast. I'll leave it there. Okay, good. All right, so in that case, I think we'll just head straight into the substantive items on the agenda, if that's okay, starting with actions and minutes from the last meeting. The minutes were circulated. I don't think any changes would have been incorporated. So can I take it that those minutes are agreed? David?
Yes. Just one item, Chair. There was a reference in the minutes to a meeting bus operated on the 11th of October. Did that take place? And maybe so is going to be reported on? And if you want to be reported on,
sorry, David. Yes, it did take place. It was to discuss the phasing work, so we met with some of the members just to run them through concerns, etc.
and did that critical meeting underline the fact that down access to Down Street will have to be maintained at all times, or was that the report that makes it?
Yeah, we did take that. So we've done some early contractual engagement, and we did take that to the contractor to consider.
To consider.
Well, until we've sent a phasing plan to the contractor for early engagement, and they've come back with some comments, but obviously it depends on their own programme and street availability, street bus availability, etc. So I can't confirm 100% yet because we're not at that stage.
Well, I don't think that's why, but just to emphasise that access to Down Street is quite critical for all bus companies, all the bus companies in the town.
Okay, thank you, David. I think if there's any other items specific, I will pick up most of the other actions, I think, as we go through the rest of the agenda. Okay, so should we move then to item 3, which is the progress report? Thank you.
Thank you. So, as highlighted in the progress report, I'd like to draw your attention to the progress that everybody's made. You know, there's been a great lot of work done, and we're moving quite steadily forward. So there's quite a lot to fit in. So what I'll do is just run through. So wayfinding, 13 out of the 15 totems have been installed now. These are the final ones at the station, which have recently gone in. And we've manufactured the other ones, which are around East Street and Borelli's, but because Crest are in there at the moment, we can't gain access. So we'll be doing them as part of works. And next slide, please. 20 mile an hour, as you probably all seen in town, it's been installed in Maiden Lane in the town centre. So as you can imagine, the traffic regulation order is now live and active. Next slide. This is the Upper Hale Road. So it's recently gone out to consultation for physical measures, which is like the tables. That consultation is complete and we're currently reviewing the comments, and that included an extension beyond Wood Road and also a crossing point at Spring Lane. So that's why it was re-consulted on. And because of that, we're now re-advertising speed limits, because by the time this is built, obviously it could expire. So we want to make sure that we've engaged everybody. So it'll be live on the 4th of January, 4 weeks, and we'll advertise that. It's programmed for August because there's quite a lot of works in the North Farm area. We've got utility works, we've got Water Lane, and we've got the Farnham Air Show. So it's now programmed for August next year. Any questions? Raleigh Park and Shrine. So this scheme is a riverside shared cycle and footpath from South Street to the Riverside car parks. Where the preliminary design is almost complete, and this forms a part of the LSWIP. So this is an early scheme coming forward from the local cycling walking infrastructure plan. Sorry. So at the moment we're in discussions with Crest, because part of their application is from South Street to the bridge, and obviously we'll pick up from the Bright Lights development to the Riverside car park. So that's the red element. So we're looking at the moment, there's some ecological issues, which includes sort of tree reviews and lighting and environmental constraints, etc. with the river. And we're also looking at the legal position of the actual land as well. So yeah, it's coming forward. Any questions?
You're going to build a bridge separately.
No.
Okay, should we pick up the bridge point, because I think that's. So I met with Wales Borough Council recently, in one of us to talk about the 2.5 metre, 4 metre bridge. As you all know, I think the planning commission, the ex-town planning commission, is for a 2.5 metre bridge. But now, if that were to come for, or certainly in terms of the council's position, we would be looking at a 4 metre bridge, so that there, you can have pedestrians and cyclists. The conversation was around both from a planning perspective and also from a funding perspective. And I think it's fair to say, perhaps, or Dawn, you could comment, but I think the way the Borough Council executive have now said that they would not approve the expenditure to create a 4 metre bridge. I think that I think Crest put in not an amended application, but something to do with the 2.5 metre bridge the other day as well. But do I take it that effectively any conversation or discussion about a 4 metre bridge is kind of no longer current?
Yeah, the executive did agree that they all wanted 4 metre bridge for the reasons that were stated, but the costings that, and I haven't seen detailed costing yet. I think that's perhaps something that Elaine's team was working on. But on the predictions of costs that we've seen, it simply is not affordable in current budgets.
I mean, there's some costings, some indicative costings. I'm not sure what number Waving Road or the executive were expecting or anticipating.
I think it was more fundamental than that, and the fact that sorry, we had to commission the detailed costings, and that came at the price. And we were requested, local borough council was requested to pay 50% of those costs to get the actual detailed costings done. And that wasn't acceptable to the exec, because there are so many challenges with trying to deliver a 4 metre bridge through planning and the Environment Agency, that we just don't believe it's viable at all, and spending money to get detailed costs really would be able to, because there are so many other challenges in trying to deliver a 4 metre bridge, which we don't believe can be overcome.
Okay, so I think from a Waving Borough Council perspective anyway, that's kind of the end of the road, so to speak, in terms of progressing any further conversation on a 4 metre bridge. There was a letter though that was going forward from the chairman of the Farnham Society, which actually suggested that we look at retaining the existing temporary bridge and making it rather more attractive. That would need planning permission from Waverley, and I don't know, but again, it would need agreement presumably from the Environment Agency and so on. Is that something, looking at you, Peter, as representative of Waverley, is that something that is worth even considering?
I think anything that will deliver cyclists crossing the river and pedestrians safely would be worth considering. I'm not sure whether it actually has been officially considered, but I can pass that to the very first executive of the new year.
Debate.
I haven't seen that. Right? You got it?
No, no,
Sorry, just going to say, I haven't seen any letters, so I'm not sure what you're referring to, so it'd be helpful if we could have the letter, and then we can give it proper consideration through the right channels.
Yeah, no, it's.
Awesome.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a suggestion came up just today. I mean, it's so, but I don't know what from a Surrey perspective whether we have a view on that.
I only just read the letter, but it's a temporary bridge, so it might have, it's going to have to go through a full planning, really. If it's environmental constraints, which are the issues, it may be raised again. I'm not sure though, but it's worth looking at, so we can pursue the letter.
Thank you, Jim. Actually, I was actually involved with the informal meeting with the Farnham Society, as was Tony Fairclough, as the portfolio holder for White Hills at Waverley. And it was an interesting idea, but Tony took it back, as I understand it, to the Waverley officers and planners. And they saw quite a lot of problems with the idea of retaining the bridge. But for a start, actually, Cressida actually owned the bridge. The feedback I got through Tony, it's actually owned, I believe, by the army or something like that, and it was rented by Crest. So it's quite a complicated issue. And also, it's a pretty wide bridge. It's sort of like 8 meters wide itself, so you'd have all sorts of problems potentially with the Environment Agency. If they're going to object to a 4-meter bridge, it's pretty likely they're going to object more strongly to an 8-meter bridge. So although the Farnham Society were trying to help, and Tony and I responded positively to their suggestions, the feedback I got from Tony, who unfortunately not on this committee, you can't actually speak, that's why I'm trying to say something almost on Tony's behalf, is it's extremely unlikely that this idea is worth pursuing. So I don't know if that helps, Chairman.
I think we've got to a position now. I think that in the absence of any other suggestion, we will have to go with the 2.5 meter bridge, which is not ideal, and we'll have to make sure there's appropriate signage and maybe a bollard or something to stop cyclists from just swinging around. I mean, I think it sounds as if there has been some comment. Well, all I would ask is, I think that it goes back to a more formal route through Dawn, and just have a look. Because I think we really do need to kind of look at every option before we settle on that. And obviously that's if Waverley Borough Council aren't supportive of it, then or if they are supportive in principle of it, then obviously we'd have to engage the Environment Agency and so on. But I think it's actually worth just putting it through the system. And,
Thanks, Chair. Just some initial thoughts, because I've been thinking since we started the conversation. We'll come back to the same challenges about ownership, who submits a planning application, who maintains it, etc. So, I think it's not as simple as let's keep the bridge, because I think Elaine's correct. It's a temporary bridge, and it probably isn't fit for purpose as a permanent structure. But my concern will be around that ownership, who does the planning application, who maintains it, because there isn't any budget from anywhere to do that at the moment.
Okay, I mean, at the moment, it's Crest's responsibility to provide the bridge, and then the ownership of it, I think, transfers to Waverley Borough Council is the existing arrangement. But anyway, I think it's if you could just take a little bit more, we'll send you the letter if you haven't got it, and then see where that takes us.
I would just add that we have to start. Well, Crest have to start doing something with the bridge, or else we might not end up with the bridge top.
Yeah, really. David,
Yeah, I have to say, I'm also sure the Waverley Planning Committee, but that part. I think it's a very disappointing outcome if we don't want to have a 4 metre bridge there. I think that's all we can say. I think a lot of effort's going to try and make this, a major attraction to the town. So I'll say, we're very disappointed if that's the outcome.
I don't think any of us would disagree with that, David, but you know, we have what the issues that we're aware of, so you know, that's why I think it's important that we do absolutely exclude every option before we set it on.
As part of our infrastructure programme, we have been encouraging Crest to come up with some, more stylised designs rather than just a wooden bridge. So on the positive, we have tried to help it be developed into something more attractive.
Okay, all right,
Final point, Chairman, actually, I think the problem that we're faced with is that the planning permission is for a 2.5 metre bridge, but it's theoretically for a 2.5 metre bridge that is meant to be for cycling and walking. So we will have the problem of how do we ensure safety of people on this bridge, because it doesn't comply with current standard. And we'll have to do something like put up signs to say cyclists can't, you have to dismount to get across the bridge, something like that, to ensure public safety. And the cyclists might well say that it's meant to be a cycling and walking bridge. So there is a sort of problem there that we'll have to deal with. And I'm not quite sure whose problem it is.
well, it's all of our problem is that we've got to make sure that all of our residents are safe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, and the team will look at that. I mean, I suspect we probably would need to put one of those sort of things that you have to wiggle around to make sure that they do get off. Cyclists do get off. I mean, it's unfortunate, absolutely, but it's only a very short distance to get back on their bike. So I think that's kind of what we need to focus on now, is how we make it safe.
I mean, there is still an alternate thing to be considered, which is where the red line stops. There's the substandard and failing wooden bridge, which is 18 metres long. That will need to be replaced at some stage, and there is the potential for that to be a 4 metre bridge. Shorter distance, the bridge does need to be replaced. That is in Waverley's ownership, so there could be a conversation between all of us to see whether we could create a cycling route there, which from a desire line for a cyclist is probably better if we're making that as walking cycling connection, connecting the red and the blue, than actually going up over the bridge anyway. So we should be looking at that as well as an alternative.
That's a nod from the lane, I think. Yeah, okay, all right, well, it's better kind of say, we'll do those pieces of work, but it's, I'm afraid that it looks as if we've got to a point where at the moment at least, we'll just have to go ahead and request to go ahead with the 2.5 metre bridge. Elaine, back to you then. I think we're to Water Lane.
So detailed design is now completed, so road safety audit, etc. With our Surrey Highways design team, and they're now ready for construction. So we're looking at permits, TRO for traffic regulation order for reducing the speed slightly, which is however, due to utility works in North Kent Farnham, we'll commence construction now in March, so we'll be starting that in March. On to the next slide.
Right. Catherine.
Just one more time, I just wanted to bring up the fact that, just so that everyone's aware, the other junction of Water Lane, which is the one on the picture on the bottom left, the one that's coloured in red, there is, obviously that did come up in the LC discussions as being the highest priority crossing in Farnham, actually, because it is a very highly used route right now that is extremely unsafe, in my view. It's 50 miles an hour, and it's a main pedestrian and cycling crossing point. Obviously,
you know, submitted as 98 2 years ago and reviewed on cost. That cost came in at 1.2 million, and the total cost for Water Lane has come in at 500,000. So I would still like to understand how that cost was so high, because we do need to find a way to get that costing funded. And I have spoken to the transport development team who are working on the response to the Water Lane access to the new business park that will essentially behind those trees that you can see in the top left of the photograph. And I really just would like to reiterate that that is still really important.
I agree, Catherine, it was nice as part of the LSWIPs. I didn't price the original scheme, so I can't comment on it. It's only our pricing recently for Water Lane I know of, sorry. So the only thing I can say is it is a faster stretch and it's dual, and it has bigger traffic management because it's an A road, whereas Water Lane is a B road. So maybe that's the difference in prices.
Sorry, David.
Yeah, but before we leave the short and medium term interventions, on the 20-mile-an-hour limit zone on Waden Lane, which is a long stretch of road, as you appreciate, it would be helpful if it's possible to have some additional roundabouts in the road, because they're just like either end.
I'll get to look at it, David.
Thank you.
Okay, now on to town centre improvements. Really a lot of work going on this at the moment since we last met. So we have submitted the community infrastructure levy bid to Waverley. We'll know the outcome in March 2024. At the moment, we're continuing with the detailed design, and we've recently advertised a traffic regulation order for parking, loading, and bus stops. I'd encourage people to make their comments, please, because it closes on the 5th of January next year. As we spoke about earlier, there's some early contractual engagement for phasing of the works. So obviously it's a concern of businesses, etc. We've had the business questionnaire back and we're looking at that. We've also spoke with our design team and our contractors of how this will work. We've had some early discussion with members as well of kind of the local things that we should consider. So we have started that, and it's very important we start early, so I do agree with that. We're about to carry out some further surveys, so although we've done some already, topographical, etc., we're now doing some more physical ones, which you'll start to see. So there'll be things like child pits, coring, CCTV drainage surveys, ground penetration radar surveys, basement surveys, etc., etc. So all will go into the final detailed design. The dates are yet to be confirmed because we're obviously going to be looking at traffic management and road space, but January and February is probably will be taken and what will be happening. So people see it on the ground. We're not starting the works, but we're looking at what we need to do. We're also in discussion with heritage teams and suppliers of materials. So we're starting to look at what styles are suitable. Farnham, we're looking at the existing layouts and what's there at the moment. Because there's quite a mix, I have to say. Farnham's got quite a kind of diverse landscape of different materials. So it's making sure that we have a inclusive sort of layout. So as part of that, we've also looked at cycle parking, street furniture and greening, so with our horticultural teams as well. And our partners have probably been asked when I finish speak about the some of their points. And I also, well, myself and the team, had a look at your lovely Christmas market. Very nice. And it was very interesting actually, because it gave us a good insight to actually how it's laid out, and because it was raining, I saw where it was ponding as well. So but yeah, if there's any questions before I move on.
I'm very glad you saw the Christmas market. I hope you also took the opportunity to sit in the gridlock that was North Farnham during the market. It was pretty horrific. It was taking 40 minutes to get from the outside of Farnham to the Six Bells roundabout. And that didn't matter what you were, that's how long it's going to take, unless you're walking or cycling, obviously. I would just like to reiterate that as part of the town centre works, we really do need to look at what happens to the areas where the traffic is displaced. I've obviously written to the team a couple of times, we've discussed it in multiple board meetings. That issue has not gone away, and the people that are in the affected areas, which particularly around the train station, but also around the Upper Hill Road, and that particularly the junction at St John's, are becoming increasingly concerned. And particularly the junction at St John's, because we've had 2 planning applications approved outside the Farnham Neighbourhood Plan on appeal, both of which are within 500 metres of that junction. And we have a woodland cemetery, which was approved, which was going to have minimal impacts on the environment, whereby we now have a planning application for 180 strong building to be built there, with all of the people coming from London. It's not serving the local population. And that's on top of potential expansions to Farnborough Airport and goodness knows what else, all of which impact on that same junction. It's simply not possible for that junction to continue to take the pain it's taking right now. The other thing that really, and we've talked about it, and I just want to say it in a public meeting, is that all 3 of the Surrey County councillors do remain concerned about the lack of cycling provision between Park Road, which will obviously be closed, and Long Garden Walk on Castle Street. That does remain a concern because that road is still busy, you know, and it will not create that cycling connectivity east-west across the town. And we are still concerned about it, and that will obviously go back again in our comments. And but thank you.
Do we take David's point next and then we'll come back to it?
Thank you very much, Chair. Right, we had a town council meeting last night and we actually discussed the various proposals. And in fact, we were writing in detail about what we were suggesting. There's some minor amendments we'd like to suggest for consideration because we do relate to the Highway Authority. But if anything, they would actually reduce construction costs, if that's any blessing. First of all, though, I would like to reiterate that we fully support the points that were made by Councillor Powell, about the need for mitigation measures to be implemented in North and South Farnham before the phasing, which we welcome, of course, and of course, any implementation of fit proposals in the town centre. We think that's very important that these are implemented, such as can be. A number of other matters, but we'd like confirmation, certainly. We're still concerned, I have to say, about the right to Castle Street and the narrowing of the borough, although we appreciate the reasons why. And we're going to get that part of the last phase of the phasing, and other points. But I'm particularly concerned that you say about the traffic regulation. Could you actually confirm now that the bus stop, now at PZ, which we moved to Hammond, will in fact be a bus lay-by rather than inline traffic? Thank you.
Jeremy's hands up, so we'll just say Jeremy next month on the same point. But Jeremy.
Thanks so much, Tim. First of all, apologies, I haven't been able to attend a number of these Farnham board meetings in the last year, but I'm really delighted with the progress that's been made, and thank you, Tim, very much for your leadership. On the town centre, I mean, I think we've always recognised that it's not possible to make changes in the town centre because of the traffic architecture without having some impact on other areas. But it is important that we don't lose sight of the big win here, which is to transform the centre of the town for the vast majority of Farnham residents, so that traffic doesn't dominate what happens in the town centre, which in the way that it does at the moment. I just really wanted to ask, what is the timescale for completing the town centre improvements as envisaged by the programme? Because I just wanted to get some sense as to when people in Farnham are going to see the big changes.
Thank you very much. Elaine, do you want to answer questions?
So if I just run through all of them. So David Stemper wants to talk on the North and South Farnham studies. David's on the line.
Can you hear me, everybody? I'm dialing in.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Powell, for that comment, and also the detailed note you sent across. We've passed that across to the Surrey County Council technical specialists, so our transport studies team and our development control team, to assess and consider those points. And I think, as per my email, Councillor Powell, we've committed to a follow-up meeting to work through those issues and those details in terms of the development. So that is something that we are committed to doing. I think, Elaine, I think perhaps you can clarify. There was a question about the bus lay-by and whether that's in line or on the street. I know that there's been regular discussions with Surrey County Council's Passenger Transport Group and Stagecoach. So perhaps, Elaine, could you clarify that point for me, please?
Yes, so we're waiting for the outcome of the stage 1 safety audit based on the existing layout. And we've also done some further options, but we still have to pass them through our passenger transport team. So until we know the outcome of their comments, because obviously then we'll pass them back. With regards to Jeremy's comment about the start of works and finishing of works, so it was programmed for October, but I would recommend to avoid 2 Christmases in Farnham, that we start in January 2026. It's an 18-month programme, Jeremy, so obviously that'll be mid-2027, it's all complete.
25.
Sorry, it starts not this January, next January,
Yeah,
18 months. My years are kind of flying by, it feels like. Sorry.
So by the middle of 26, the works will be complete.
Yes.
But people will start to see the phasing of that coming through during 2024 next year.
End of next. So it's we're not wanting to start until following year.
Anything.
Well, we'll go. It's supposed to be October next year when we start, but there's been quite a lot of kickback because obviously we're trying to avoid a Christmas period, 2 Christmas periods.
We won't finish till December of 26, so it'll be 2 Christmases to be effective.
Will be just before.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just been reprogrammed at the moment because we're trying to phase it in a way that avoids too much disruption. So until it's due October 24 that we start. So we could try and start earlier, but we still hit Christmas.
Yeah, Jeremy's hands up.
So I just wonder why couldn't you start in July and then finish ahead of Christmas in 2026, so that you do affect 1 Christmas, but it's only 1 Christmas. But if you just, that way you could start it so much earlier, and then the thing would be completed, getting on for a year earlier.
Jeremy, I'll try, but at the moment the procurement time is quite a long period because we're going to have to go out to a major framework, and that can take up to 6 months, given the value.
I think all of us around the room had expected that the works would start much earlier in 2024. Yeah, I think we really kind of need to push that hard, because if the procurement starts in January, then hopefully we would have that in place for the owners to start over the summer. I think we really need to try and achieve that.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Perhaps I can suggest that's something that we'll take away. We'll speak to our contracting team and our procurement team and just review the timescales, and we can perhaps come back with some clarity on milestones.
I mean, I think the key thing is, yes, we want to avoid Christmas, but equally we want to do work in the summer, because in summer it's less busy and it's less impactful, and that's what. Sorry?
And you get 2 summers.
And you get 2 summers, yeah, 2 summers, yeah, so I think that the original, I mean, I think it's caught us all a little bit off guard, to be honest with you. But I think that the key thing from our perspective is to try to do the really impactful works in summer periods. So if we could do something this summer to try and do some of the stuff that's gonna impact on traffic, that would make a massive difference to the overall impact on the traffic.
We're still on programme for October 24, so we're still on programme for that.
Okay, well, let's see if we get that to July 2024.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to what Elaine said about having submitted the syllabus to Waverley of 3.25 million. That's 40% of the available fund. So it's a big deal, I think, is what I'm trying to say. The process is that all syllabus are now being scored against a very complex criteria. And what I would say, though, is having done my own scoring informally, it rates extraordinarily high. And in fact, the community infrastructure levy, which is still, this is typically the ideal infrastructure project for that kind of funding. The SIL advisory board will be meeting in January, so the scoring hopefully will be complete by then. And the threshold for executive to approve is 2.5 million. So it needs to go to full council, and the target date for that is March. The council in March. Needless to say, I will be speaking in favour. Thank you.
Well, we very much hope that the council will recognise the importance of this to Farnham. Yes, I'm sure all of the councillors will be speaking in support. David.
I'd just like to remind everybody that Farnham does represent 40% of the population of Waverley, so I'm going to be that first, isn't it? But just a point, Farnham hasn't had that still application yet, Elaine, is that going to come to us soon?
Sorry.
We haven't had our still application for Farnham.
Once we have a better idea of how the costs, etc., with regards to paving and street furniture, etc., then obviously we can have a detailed conversation, David.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you, Jim. If I can slightly change the subject, I think the 2 main reasons why Jeremy actually kicked off this project quite a few years ago was to try and make the town centre a lot more pleasant for shoppers and residents, etc. And it's clear that the project will do that. But the second main reason was to try and improve the air quality in central Farnham. Now, I was asked a question only about 10 minutes before the meeting by Waverley Council about when will we begin able to start to look at the question of improvements in air quality, and that Waverley Borough Council is responsible for the air quality management plan, and at some stage there will have to be discussions between the project team and Waverley, and the question was when can we foresee that happening, Chairman?
I think actually, Jerry, I think actually the primary focus was around air pollution and improvement of air quality. That was some of it was cool. So it'll always be a key part of this, and obviously the part of the solution to that is the reduction of the traffic, particularly along the borough, which was the area I think you had the high level of air pollution. So Elaine, I don't know if you can comment on that question. But that's basically where are we going in terms of improved air quality? What is it that perhaps we're expecting Waverley Borough Council to do?
So we're working with Waverley, so we've sent all our air quality analysis to them, and we're talking with them. It'll be a further discussion with regards to planting any mitigation measures we can do, etc.
Thank you.
Catherine?
Could you share it with us as well? Because we had also expressed an interest in seeing the air quality information. Thank you.
Okay, I think that this is anything else on the town centre improvements. Sorry, Jim. Okay. Thank you, Elaine. Should we move on to the LC votes?
I'm going to hand over to Neil McClure, who hopefully on the call will give some updates.
Thank you, Elaine. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, so an update on the LC whip and where we've got to progress since the last board meeting here in September, and essentially what's happening next and next steps. So I think on the screen there, Elaine, as well, if you scroll down a bit further, actually you can probably see it, but I can't on my screen, but I think we've got all the routes shown. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so yeah, so the big action required since the last meeting was the stakeholder engagement sessions. So over just as a quick recap, since the Farnham LSWIP and Waverley LSWIP were signed off back in March, stakeholder sessions led by the 3 Surrey County councillors were undertaken over the summer period. And the agreement was that there would be a final wash-up summary session where the objective of the session was to agree the prioritisation of routes for cycling and walking around and into and out of the town centre area to then connect into the work of Elaine and team. But the prioritisation piece was the piece needed to then move us forward from the stage 1, which is the LSWIP plan, into the stage 2, which is then the feasibility design and the next important stage of work to get us towards the delivery, securing investment point to deliver the routes on the ground. So the final pleased to say the final workshop was scheduled 17th of October. A 2-hour session was held at Waden School in Farnham. Along with in terms of invitees, the same stakeholders that had attended the previous sessions were invited. 3 Surrey County councillors, Waverley Borough and Farnham Town Council officers attended at the same time. I think it's fair to say there's a lot to get through in that 2-hour slot. We did our best, and I'm very pleased to say that, yeah, it was a very successful, productive meeting. A lot of discussion, debate around the issues, concerns, etc., and a lot of positive input from all involved that ultimately has given, a consensus was reached that we now have a prioritised list of schemes that have come through the process. So this is on the back of the Farnham LSWIP plan with the additional engagement input that's gone into the process, and we now have that defined list. I'm happy to, while I continue talking about kind of the next stage and what's happening right now, I'm happy to share on the screen perhaps the list of actual schemes. If that's helpful? I can't share at the moment, so somebody would need to just activate that for me. What I open here is a PDF, which is I'm not intending to go through the detail of the schemes as such, because that's essentially what we're now trying to get to. But if I'm able to share, I will. Don't know if anyone can do that, or shall I just continue talking with the schemes here on the screen?
I think Neil just
So,
I think we need the list up, particularly doing.
Okay. So in terms of, that's where we got to in terms of the the workshop was completed, and we now have that agreed prioritisation of schemes. The important piece that's happening now, and in terms of the next steps, is that we always know we had a finite budget here, relatively limited budget, as we do across the county-wide programme. We know already, we're not going to be able to afford to do all of the prioritised routes in one go in terms of the feasibility stage, and that's similar and aligned to the rest of the county-wide programme, that there's a phased approach to now taking schemes forward. So the initial phase of work, in discussion with Atkins, who have been involved in the first stage of the work, in discussion with Atkins and Arups, who are part of the same framework contractors for us, it's agreed that Arups are now taking forward the second stage feasibility work to take the feasibility and the costings of the schemes. Work proposal is expected shortly from Atkins, which is completely aligned to the county-wide programme, using the same process and methodology to complete the feasibility design, engage on the schemes, and ultimately build us and lead us through to the public consultation on the schemes before ideally trying to secure investment to then deliver the schemes on the ground. So I'm expecting the proposal shortly from Arups. In terms of timeframes, we have a Q4 start, so that the start of next year, January through to March, is when the feasibility is intended to commence. I'll come back to that, which is aligned to the Waverley LSWIP, actually, which we just received the proposal, which is being taken forward by Atkins, and will be then running in parallel to design up the routes we're then looking to take forward. So when I do receive the proposal, I'm expecting to share that, certainly with the 3 Surrey County councillors, to ensure that it's aligned to what everyone's still expecting. And I say the key point there is that we know that the budget is not going to stretch to the full list of 8 prioritised schemes. However, importantly, there has been already some combination of schemes that came through that feasibility process to combine them where they made sense. The example there is the Waden Lane Upper Hale area scheme, and there is, we've already touched on it here in terms of the A325, the crossing point, which at the moment is a standalone scheme, but naturally would link into a corridor piece. So there is, I'm hoping there is an efficiency of scale that's likely to come through from the ARUP's proposal when we do receive it. So on receipt of the proposal, we then expect to be able to confirm the scope of the work that then is the subject of the feasibility stage, and essentially how many schemes we're going to be able to take through as this first phase of work. And it's worth, again, re-highlighting that, this is the first phase of feasibility. The LSWIP is a 10+ year strategic planning tool, as defined by DFT. And across all areas of the county, it is a phased approach to taking schemes through. We'll design schemes up, absolutely, and look to secure funding. We're never going to secure funding for everything, so that the phased approach and the prioritisation is hugely important to the process. So that's the key piece of work that's happening. As I say, a Q4 start is expected on the feasibility stage. As part of that piece of work, there've been engagement plan, which we're drafting currently, and again expecting to share with key people here, in terms of just ensuring that we, at the end of the feasibility design process, you have the scheme designs, which then go out to full public consultation. But the journey to that, obviously, we need to ensure that we're doing what we can, what we need to do in the right places, etc. And the schemes are going to be fit for purpose, that are then going to be on the supported locally to then bid for the funding to deliver on the ground. The bit I should have said, of course, in terms of the routes. So after the sign off of the LSWIP report from March, and now commencing the feasibility stage shortly, there's the piece in between. So Atkins, who had worked with us on the stage one, are now producing a summary report, which essentially would be an addendum to the original LSWIP report. The purpose of that is to document the outcomes of the additional stakeholder sessions, updated maps, etc., to show how. So what you see on the screen here is the prioritised schemes, the cycle routes on the left of the core walking zones on the right, that were introduced and developed as part of the LSWIP plan. What's come on top of that is the additional stakeholder work with the councillors and the local stakeholders here, which have now given us our prioritised network of schemes that align here, but equally they are dedicated schemes that have the agreement that they're the most beneficial schemes to take forward to do what we need to do with LSWIP, which is to push and deliver the modal shift from people that are currently making journeys by less sustainable transport to move on to cycle and walking.
Okay, Neil, I think could you pause there, please, because I think first of all, can I thank the three county councillors for what they have done in getting to the agreed list, which I know was not easy. I think they're key that we put up the list on the screen actually, so that there's clarity for the public domain.
Thank you. Yes. So yeah, on the screen here. So what you'll see, so the 1 to 8 down the left hand side. So that 1 being the highest priority, 3 to 8 as the lower down priority as this initial phase of work. So as I was saying, so what you see at the top map on the left and the right, that's the cycle corridors from the Farnham LSWIP plan. That's the published document on the left, and the core walking zones on the right. And the two maps that then sit beneath it, very helpfully by Councillor Powell as the output to the stakeholder sessions, shows colour-coded the 1 to 8 schemes, how they then overlap and how they then align to those existing LSWIP corridors, and show the prioritisation, as you see, the routes around and connecting into and out of the town centre. So it's a mix of cycling and walking routes, as detailed down the left, with the exception of on the right, the route number 5, which is a walking only proposed improvement, and the star symbol there, scheme number 4, is as we touched on the A325 crossing point. So the piece that ARUPs are now doing is pricing against the feasibility design work that will be required for all of those 8 schemes. And ultimately, we're going to see how far down the list we can get with our 100k budget, which we've already notified earlier. And we're not going to get down to number 8, I know that, but we are hoping to be able to cover a number of these schemes. And the remit for ARUPs as well is that if there's any more combination of routes, whereas there is with scheme number 1, which combined 2 of the routes from the earlier engagement work, then that in itself can provide more efficiency to take more of this through the initial phase of feasibility. And of course, subject to other funding becoming available, other routes will then follow through the same process.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. So those 8 routes, the being worked on. You know, we'll deal with the funding issue, the feasibility outside of this meeting. But obviously those are the ones that locally, I think we agree we want to take forward to cash.
I'd just like to thank Neil for his flexibility to deal with, I'm sure you've used slightly awkward Surrey County councillors, but we really appreciate it, and I think that what's come out of it has been really valuable to the people of Farnham, and they feel more engaged. I would say that the top route that is the priority there is subject to an ongoing planning application where the developer is currently blocking that route, and it is the only alternative route to the Upper Hale Road for children to get directly to schools on Weather Road. And I just would encourage you to please make sure that the transport development team are well aware of the priorities that have been set by the local population, to try to continue to push that route becoming available and viable. Because if we lose this opportunity, we'll never have another alternative. It was the only one we could find. Thanks, Neil.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, David.
And just a request that would have been any further documentation sent to the children if they can get us, and also should with us, Farnham Council and Waverley Borough Council for that matter. Yeah, and I said future documentation.
Yeah, and obviously that this has come out of the public sections. So, okay, I think we're happy with that. So yeah, so thank you very much, Neil, for you know, progressing these, and look forward to and if you can take that point back around, I don't know to what extent the county council team can have any major influence on the planning application, but please don't make the point in any submission to Waverley.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. We will move on to item 6, which is the A31. Okay.
Thank you. So this is a package of interventions between Shepherd and Block Roundabout, including Hinckley's to Coxbridge Roundabout. And these will address reduced severance between North and South Farnham, improve public transport, improve walking and cycling routes which link into the OSWIPs, which we've just been talking about. And it will also address traffic issues by reducing the volume of traffic travelling from South Street, and therefore has the potential to reduce queues back from the level crossing. These will also complement any changes which will be made in the town centre as it moves traffic away from the junction at Tees Corner, and it provides a more suitable access to the railway station via Station Approach. That is on our preferred option. So just to give you a bit of background, so as I probably reported before, just to reiterate, the strategic outline business case was submitted to DFT, Department of Transport, in November 2021, and we waited some time, but in between, Department of Transport and Active Travel England have reviewed and scrutinised our business case. And in November 2022, it was presented to their investment panel and was received really positively, and thereby it was recommended to Treasury for approval. DFT have now informed Surrey that the strategic business case has been successful to progress to outline business case, and this is a massive step forward for the Farnham Infrastructure Programme. So on the next slide, I'm going to kind of give you some more information about the 5 stages. So stage 0 is when we kind of look at what is needed. We've done that, that's been in the past, that's been rumbling around for some time. At each point, we've got to present the strategic, economic, commercial, financial and management process that we're going to do. So there's always an investment point. So in red, outlined in red, are the investment points. So not to be too technical, the one that stage 1, which is the one which essentially draws a line in the sand and said, we want to bid, and they go, yes, I think that's a really good idea. So we have to say why we need the scheme, what's the scope, a high level consultation which happened last year, so we presented 3 of the options, how it will fit in with local and national government ambitions, and identified our preferred way forward. So that's what we've done, that's what has been approved to go on to stage 3. And in stage 3, which is the outline business case, we have to demonstrate the value for money of that scheme, and we have to provide full economic and financial appraisals. There's still the 5 strategic, commercial, management, etc. cases as well, but a full public consultation. So that's when we will properly be showing exactly what's happening. This is probably next year, I would say, because we're trying to accelerate this. And we do detailed assessments of the shortlisted options and then the optimum solution. So we've already looked at 3, but we're going to kind of scrutinise them, refine them, and make sure that they're, you know, suitable. And then we'll prepare for procurement. So that's going out to our contractors. And then the final one, which is when the money appears in our pockets, is confirms the conclusions made in the strategic and the outline business cases, and then we procure the contractor. So that's built. And each time, like I say, it is development. And then once we've finished, we'll be building on stage 4 and evaluating on stage 5. So we're still a long way, but government and DFT and Active Travel England like our proposals, and they're willing to fund it potentially. So this is like the first step.
Well, a little bit more than the first step, actually. Getting to know VC is, you know, we record our thanks to Jeremy, who behind the scenes has been very supportive of this scheme, which I'm quite sure has you know, been a significant contributor to get into this phase. So I think, you know, knowing a little bit about the way these things operate, to get to being invited to submit an outline business case gives me confidence that, you know, we will remain, you know, near the top of the list. I know there's been a review of all of the schemes, not least of all because of the potential release of the money from HS2. So I think, you know, we're in a great place there, and you know, yes, I don't think when we started these conversations that we necessarily thought being able to address Lincoln's Corner was going to be, you know, necessarily achievable in this sort of timescale. So I think we're in a great place. So it'd be good to get that outline business case in, and you know, and then keep our fingers crossed that we get that funding. And that will be, you know, along with the others, like on the transformation in terms of town. Peter.
Just a quick question for Lynn. In a 2-sentence answer, what's the difference between the outline business case and the strategic?
The strategic is kind of really high level. So if you see it as a feasibility stage, really, optioneering and what we've got and how much money we've got to put towards it, etc. So really high level. And then when we get to outline business case, in essence, it's sort of bridging preliminary design and detailed design. You're doing the intrusive surveys, you're really spending money looking at the detail of it. So it's a costly one. So you have, you know, DOT have to be very sure that these are viable schemes for them, this secondary investment. So SOB is really the need for the scheme in essence.
Just to follow up on that, when would you see the public consultation?
I mean, we've got at the moment, we're going to be reprofiling, so probably by the next board I can kind of report a bit more. At the moment we're looking at how you know, funding streams, all sorts of things. It's more complex now because it's been waiting so long. Obviously now we've got to reevaluate all the different timeframes and what's needed. So you know, there's some heavy design which is now going to have to be done. So I think it's probably best if I report that at the next board. I already feel bad about programming at this board.
Yeah, well, I think the strategic is a vision, and actually the outline business case is the delivery of a, you know, a detailed scheme. So you know, I mean, we submit lots of different things to government, and you know, getting beyond that stage 1 into stage 2 is you know, doesn't happen very often. So this is good news. Okay, then referendum as well. We should comment on that. So,
Sorry, Chair. Elaine, is it possible for you to tell us whether there was any preference between the three options that were put forward, or is that too early for you to have that discussion?
It's a bit early because there's been we've had some discussions, and yesterday with DFT guidance has slightly changed because of obviously more active travel and things like that. So at the moment we're reviewing all three options, and they're wanting us to have a review with another option. So nothing, it's a variation. So at the moment I'm probably a bit early to say.
Thank you.
So Repression and Western bypasses, obviously there's been a lot of talk about the A31, but we are still having this on the table. We've done some environmental and cost reporting, but we're currently reviewing viability of the scheme.
Okay.
So moving on to the next slide. Key milestones. Just like to note there's still October to go on there. No, we can't even remember it was in there. We'll be talking a bit later about HGVs, which is at the end. So I'll talk about that later. But in essence, the 20-mile-an-hour Waden Lane in town centre is now complete. The phase 2 is due to be started in August 2024 to avoid the closures for utilities, alternating construction, the Farnham Air Show as well. So it'll be August next year. The wayfinding is complete apart from the last two, which we can't get in until Brightwell's finished. We're ready to park and stride. The detailed design in essence is almost finished, but we've had a delay because of the bridge issues and what we're tying into. And obviously the A31 corridor, we're reprofiling. So there's a lot of change with that. So I'll report that at the next board.
And my understanding was that South East Water want to close Sandy Hill Road for 4 months between April and I thought it was September. It is a bit of a disaster because that is our most deprived area. I'm going to close the entire road because they want to put the pipe down the middle of the road, and they're going to move between roads. I did talk to them in consultation and try and put them off the idea, and failed fairly miserably. I talked to Stagecoach because that's a primary bus route that obviously serves a community that's very much in need of the bus, to see if I could get Stagecoach to agree to essentially reverse the bus, which I knew it was never going to happen, but I had to ask to see whether or not we could service the entire road, and they have said they can't. So they will. I'm not even sure if by August that road will be clear. I don't think you can do those works in parallel with. No, I'm really upset about it because they've got permission to go. I mean, essentially, it's a new water pipe to supply the Aldershot urban expansion, which is like 4,000 acres. It's not where we are. And they've got planning permission to go through the SPA, the special protection area, using the tracks. So they can't dig up a new route for the pipelines, but they can follow the tracks. And there is a track all the way along the top of. Essentially, if the Sandy Hill Road is here, then there's a path that runs parallel to it. We asked them, why can't you use that path? And apparently it was to do with the fact that the MOT would only allow them to access the spa for a certain number of months in any 1 year because of the bird nesting and lots of very good ecological reasons. But of course, that particular track, although it's technically in the spa, is not really in the same category as the ones that go right through the middle of the spa. But to date, I've been losing that argument. There is a planning application that's just come in and is live. But I do think we need to look at it really carefully with regard to that planning application.
I mean, I think that I don't think we can do that today. I mean, all I would say is we've now brought in a specialist individual to address all of the street works issues. So, we have over 1,000 interventions on the Surrey roads every week, over 60,000 a year. And definitely I have been liaising with Michael Gove, the Secretary of State, on the points around controlling these utility companies, because just at the moment, they have a statutory right to intervene if it's an emergency. Everything seems to be declared an emergency. If it's an emergency, they don't need a 5-day permit. If it's a genuine emergency, they should do it within 24 hours. So we're looking at how we can contain and control the permits in the first instance, but better manage the whole situation, because the utility companies book out 50% of the time on our network in a year in advance, which then makes it really difficult for us to schedule our routine maintenance works. And of course, if they then come in and do emergency works like they're doing our own stuff, that's just where we get a bit long. So I think, and this is a good example of, well, not a very bad example of and we had that recently actually in Cobham, where they wanted to close the main road for 2 weeks to replace a deep main, and I think we reached a compromise over that. So, if it's in a residential area, nighttime working is not always going to be popular. But that's the sort of thing that we need to look at. Why we still have a situation where main pipes are being put down in the road. I really don't know, but I think if we can, rather than try and deal with that now, take away the point and feed that into the wider work that's being done in terms of how we can really stop the clashing of all of these works and the length of time it takes. I mean, I get and all of the councillors get emails every day from residents stuck in the traffic jam, looking at barriers with a hole and nobody doing anything in it. Now, there's often the reason why that is, but it's just simply not acceptable that major parts of our road network are being closed off for weeks or months at a time. So we will pick that up and see what we can do.
Okay, just on the risks, funding availability. Obviously, we review available and receive funding as we go through government funding. Also alignment with evolving central government policy, so it's making sure we keep abreast of changes, to undertake scenario planning if new changes happen. Scope creep, there's a lot on this programme, and there's a risk of any additional work and reduced funding or other projects within FIP. So it's kind of noting that finances for this programme are highly strained. So, as additional things are requested, will be taken from something else in the programme. Inflation, obviously, is outside of our control. So it's just sure that, any business cases we're submitting have the appropriate contingencies. Achievable programmes, there are many interdependencies. Brightwells is a good example of projects sort of within Farnham. So making sure we have, regular reviews and timely decisions around intermediate points to kind of reduce the impact on the programme. There's an opportunity, which I've spoken about before, is making sure that South Street and Union Road resurfacing works happen during the period of closures within the town centre. So that all happens at one time. So that's all for me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Elaine. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of your updates. So thank you very much for that. There were no questions that were submitted. Do we have David Curl online? Dave was going to pick up the HGV one. Oh, okay. So I've got a written. Okay. I'll read it rather than make up my version. In line with the regulations covering moving traffic enforcement, on the 3rd of November, Surrey County Council started a 6-week consultation about the use of ANPR, it's automatic number plate recognition cameras, to enforce a 7.5-ton weight restriction on the A3016 and the A287 in Upper Hill, Farnham. So far, there have been nearly 200 responses, with the consultation closing on the 15th of December. The outcome will be analysed in the new year and reported to the board at the next opportunity. Doesn't say what those 200 responses are. I hope they're supportive. And he goes on to say that an important aspect of enforcing weight restriction will be to give HGV drivers fair warning on the approaches and of the potential for camera enforcement. This will mean improving the advanced warning signs at various points on the A287 in Hampshire, primarily the M3 junction 5 at Hook, and those roads are managed by Hampshire County Council rather than National Highways. And that will be necessary to, in order to direct HGVs along the M3, A331 for Farnham rather than taking the A287. They're having conversations with Hampshire County Council and they have agreed in principle to the new warning signs, subject to the Surrey County Council installing them under Section 8 of the Highways Act agreement. I think that basically means we pay for them, doesn't it? And they're now being commissioned by the design team to prepare the detailed plans that could be used for consultation, estimation, and all the works. So basically what that says is that we're pushing on with that. I hope that the consultation will be supportive of introducing a camera. I think with the plan was to have NSL, who do the parking enforcement on the street, to have a mobile camera going along. So and then, you know, subject to what that's shown in the consultation results, then to put in a permanent camera. Just one final comment from me, which I raised with the Police and Crime Commission, which is the use of cameras. So to share the data. So at the moment, if you put up a speed camera, an average speed camera, you can't use that for the purposes of enforcement of an HGV ban. And that just seems to be completely illogical. So it's, I think again, it's something that there needs to be national government involved in, but you know, it seems to be if you've got a camera up there doing one thing, it could do another thing at the same time, because we know that certainly in the case of average speed cameras, they are the most effective form of controlling speed. And you know, in my own division, we're just putting in one now alongside an ban, and I sort of make sure that we catch people's speed or stop people speeding, and also prevent HGVs from breaching any ban. So I think that's positive. You know, I know that the work that the local group has done just to help identify the repeat offenders has been really useful. So thank you to them for doing that. But hopefully this will put in a permanent solution.
Thank you, Tim. I think the additional signage on the A287 in Hampshire will be really welcome. I would, sorry to sound broken record, but there are still concerns about the signage on the Hogsback. So whilst this will improve the potential for people to take the route from the M3 through Upper Hale and Castle Street, what it's not doing anything about is the route along the A31 to direct them up the Blackwater Valley Road. There is still one really small, not very effective sign that people do still raise complaints about and say it's not clearly signed. And I would just like us to, and say again, just like us to look at it one more time and just see if there's anything else that can be done.
Thank you, Catherine. David.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I mean, we discussed this matter at last night's town council meeting, and we very much welcome, obviously, this consultation, which we say we're fully supportive of it. But we do have one concern, and that is the proposed penalty at £75 or less than 40 to pay within a certain amount of time is not, it's too low, and it will not be the deterrent that we desire. And we didn't understand why the maximum allowed under the legislation was not being proposed, which we believe to be the order of £300.
I don't know what to say that way. So what's the maximum that's allowed?
Well, we believe it's the order of £300, but we haven't we don't know, but £75 would seem to rise, to be quite honest.
I can't imagine that we would have just picked out a random number, so I will look at that, but I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, if there is a maximum, then we would expect to go with the maximum. I mean, this is a deterrent, you know, so yeah, okay, well, we'll have a look at that. But hopefully, so we'll see what the next board meeting will what the results of the consultation are, and then if that's supported, then we'll press ahead. Okay, I think That was the only item of any other business that I had. Is there anything else from Elaine? Do you have anything else? Or anyone else?
So just going back to the chance that Elaine mentioned regarding road space, I think given that we do have Brightwells works, potentially 31 works, town centre works, 20 mile area, the list is long, even when we just look at the things that are within our own control. I think it would be really useful to have a single document that kind of talks about the phasing of those things and how they interact with each other. Because the reality is the town is facing a prolonged period of roadworks, in quite severe roadworks. And yes, Jeremy's absolutely right to focus on the end state, but as I'm sure Jeremy is well aware, all of us that are in positions, whether we're councillors or whether we're the local MP, are going to get communications during the period of execution, put it that way, and it would be useful to just be sure that we've done everything we can to try to minimise the impact. Thank you.
Yeah, we're quite well made and noted. David?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm just sort of thinking through hearing the discussions today. There's a number of things, isn't there? There's the utilities we've heard about on Sandy Hill Lane. There's the SIL decision in March 24. We haven't mentioned the Crest Brightwells East Street works. There's the procurement leading and road space. So I was mentioning Elaine during the meeting that we'll take away and produce a note, an easy read note in terms of some of these key milestones and key timescales, and that will then give us a better informed view as to why we're looking at the start dates that we are. As part of that, we'll of course look at whether there's any phasing and whether there's any earlier works we can do to show build within the town. Obviously, we've started already with wayfinding with 20 mile an hour, so we do have that presence of work going on, but we will look at that and pull together a document that draws together the timelines and the interdependencies, if that's helpful to the board. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would, David. I mean, it is, there are lots of moving parts here, so absolutely we've got to reflect that and to, ultimately to reduce wherever as much as possible the disruption to local residents. There will be some pain inevitably as we move forward with these works, but the end, getting the long-term benefits hopefully will outweigh that. But clearly we've got to be very cognizant of the fact that in view of kind of some recent incidents, the impact that any works within the town centre has. Which is why phasing is really important. But equally, I think we are all now very keen, having got to this point, to press on and get these improvements in place, as soon as we can. So I think,
Dawn may add to this, but it's just to say there's opportunity at the moment with the local plan update and local plan update for as joint call for sites being put out. So I know some of the works that's been talked about at Higgins Corner may well lead to some infrastructure changes that could be incorporated in both the neighbourhood plan and the local plan. So we should certainly have conversations around that early in the new year.
Okay, Peter, I think you wanted to say.
Thank you, Chairman. Now, I can't speak for everyone around this table, but certainly for me, it is disappointing that this would be my last board meeting. I'm standing down at the end of this month as deputy leader at Waverley under a doctor's orders. But you can't expect me to just disappear without saying a couple of words. In the 4 years since the FIP was launched and the Farnham board held its first meeting, we've seen many changes. We've seen changes in the shape of this board, in the leading, even 3 changes in leadership of Farnham Town Council. But one thing has remained steadfastly constant over this period, and that's the chairman of this board, who has chaired all 15 meetings, to the best of my knowledge, since 2019. So thank you, Lieutenant. Given the financial uncertainties across the council at all levels in Surrey, which are not going to get better anytime soon. In some respects, it has now become a race against time to get the funding fully secured and in place, the project started, and the work done before inflation eats into and erodes the budget. Finally, I've lived in Farnham for over 40 years and I've seen similar projects come and go. Projects with the same objectives have all fallen by the wayside. But at last we are on the cusp of getting work started, and we can now plan for mitigations, two really important mitigation areas. Alleviating disruption to Farnham's town centre with carefully phased implementation, and mitigation for displaced traffic that will occur in North and South Farnham. That's all I have to say to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent, and thank you for your individual support. I mean, I think it has been a journey. I mean, just in terms of the county council, the borough council, and the town council working together. But I think it's been an exemplar in terms of actually what you can achieve when all tiers of local government come together, and indeed with the support of Jeremy as the Member of Parliament. So personally, I'm delighted that we're now actually, the conversation now is about how we're going to deliver this, not whether we're going to deliver it, and a little bit about when we're going to deliver it. But Elaine is very clearly now in the camp that those works will need to start in the summer. So we will help at least to achieve that. But I think we're Jeremy kicked this off, as I say, 4 years ago with a conversation about air pollution. The world has moved. Nobody knew that we were going to have COVID, and indeed, and actually, but it's been helpful in that sort of now that move nationally to get people out of their cars, get the walking, cycling, the rollout of the on-demand little mini buses tootling around, the electric buses that are coming to Farnham and so on. So there are lots of things that have been happening anyway to help reduce that air pollution. But it is a beautiful town, and we need to do everything we can to retain the look and the feel of the town, but say without making it impossible for residents to kind of move around there. You've got a lot of expansion coming, lots of new homes. I know Catherine's particularly concerned about schooling and so on. But I think hopefully the schemes now have got the support of the majority, not all of the residents. And just the one last bit to sort out is this bridge. I think we will do that. But and wish you the very best of luck with your.
I'd just like to mention that Councillor Tony Fairclough, who's hiding in the corner, will be replacing me on the board, and I hope we will welcome him to the board in the March meeting.
Indeed. The last word there from Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to echo all of that and thank everyone for pulling together. I think it's been absolutely exemplary, but particularly thank you, Tim, for your leadership, because we just wouldn't have got where we've got to without the enormous personal commitment that you've shown to Farnham. Your team from Surrey as well have been incredibly cooperative and supportive, and we are making great progress. So very, very big thank you from me as local MP for all your efforts.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I think that just leaves me to wish you all a relaxing Christmas, hopefully, and look forward to catching up in the new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Val.